Hello, you're watching Telecom TV. We are in Dublin, in Ireland, at the Etsy NFV event number 13. We are in Croke Park Stadium in Dublin, home of the Gaelic Athletics Association, and I'm talking with Bruno Chatteras, who is Senior Standardisation Manager at Orange. Bruno, good to see you again. You're welcome. Let's start with this. If you remember 2 or 3 years ago, all the excitement and buzz there was with the announcement of NFV technology, the proofs of concept, the field trials and so on, the actual commercial rollout of NFV virtualized services has been, some people think, slow and partial. Do you think it's taking longer than had been expected? And if so, why? I mean, for example, is it because service providers were rather more cautious about it than vendors thought they might be?
Yeah, I don't know if it has been slower than expected, but I think it depends who was expecting what. From my point of view, well, no, it has not been slower than I expected, at least. But if you could look to the complexity of this technology, this is a huge transformation, not only on the technical viewpoint, but also from an operational viewpoint. So it's quite, I think it's quite, it's not a surprise that it takes time before we can go for massive commercial deployments. Of course, this is partly because the service providers are cautious about that, but it's also because, so they are cautious simply because they cannot commercially roll out something without being sure that it's a carrier-grade solution. And also maybe this perception that the NFV deployment was too slow is due to the fact that some vendors have oversold, I think, the maturity of the technology. But this happens almost every time you have a new technology. So overall, I think we are on the right track, the right timing. Many POCs, trials are already ongoing with real commercial, with real customers, and so I don't see any big problem with the calendar, I would say.
Good. Now, manufacturers have been collaborating and partnering in the build-out of big open vendor ecosystems. And if you think back to when NFV was first mooted, in the first documents there were lots and lots of mentions of ecosystems dotted throughout there. Have those ecosystems changed? Have they evolved? What do they look like now? How important are they, for example? And what has the response been from service providers like yourself?
Well, up to now, most of these ecosystems, I think, have been structured around one big vendor with many satellites, I would say. So this is a very good step towards deployment, because it enables at least to have an integrated solution for those willing to deploy something quickly. But it's just one step. It's not what we need. I think what service providers are expecting is a wider ecosystem with where something that will be truly open with more than one big vendor. And so this kind of truly open ecosystems are difficult to set up, and the only way to foster this kind of wide ecosystem is to go through the standardization process and through large open source communities. So what the service providers can do for that is first to engage in standardization bodies and open source communities, but also to talk to the manufacturers and convince them, if they are not already convinced, that they should join these communities, these standardization bodies, and that's what we are really expecting from them, rather than developing a silo, a small ecosystem around them. But I believe they all understand that anyway. So.
Good, thank you. This is an interesting one, I think, because NFV has been presented to the world from the start as being a globally applicable, overarching technology that can be used in any service provider environment, more or less, and in any network. And then suddenly we hear talk about carrier-grade NFV. How does carrier-grade NFV differ from any other form of the technology?
I think NFV, the NFV technology has to be carrier-grade. If it's not NFV. It's basic cloud computing. So to me, the goal of the NFV community is to build a technology based on cloud computing techniques that is carrier-grade. So carrier-grade meaning providing the same level of performance, reliability, security as what we have today in our networks. And doing that, but the challenge, of course, the challenge is not only to provide these levels of performance, reliability and so on, but also to provide them while meeting the promises of NFV, the promises in terms of agility and the reduction of TCO, cost. This is where the challenge is. But if NFV was not carrier grade, I guess that NFV would not exist.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just interesting to hear the notion that, there's carrier grade NFV when everybody thought that it was carrier grade anyway. So maybe it's just a difference of emphasis.
Yeah, I don't know, but to me, NFV means carrier grade solution. Otherwise, it's cloud computing.
Good.
That's it.
Good answer. The business transformation, Bruno, that goes hand in hand with technology transformation and the emergence of the virtualized network shows that many operators around the world still lack the skill sets necessary to manage that transformation quickly and efficiently. It seems most people accept in the industry that we need new blood into it, specialists, to be able to implement NFV and everything that goes with it properly. Where are they coming from? And are they in place now?
I guess that the situation is probably different from one operator to another. Looking to large operators, large service providers, I believe that they don't really need new blood, as you said, coming from outside. Most of the large service providers, they have network teams, they have IT teams, and so the skills, the technical skills required to make NFV a success are already there. The only thing missing is probably to get the people in the network teams to become more trained into IT technologies and vice versa. But overall, the skills are there. It's just a matter of cross-pollination in some way between the teams. And most big service providers have already launched huge training campaigns, training programs inside the company to make sure that the IT culture and the network culture are propagated from one group of people to another. So no need for external blood, I would say.
Thank you. A final question to you then. It's been said that network transformation and virtualization is like building a plane while you're flying it. It's a tricky thing to do. This company, Telecom TV, back in 2013, we conducted a survey with service providers and vendors, and the results indicated that it would take 2 or 3 years before we would see virtualization in carrier networks. Looking at it now from mid-late February 2016, what answer or estimate would you give now? Would you change your mind, or do you think it'll be next year or the year after, or what?
I don't remember. I don't know if I answered this question at that time, but I think this is related to the first question you asked.
It is.
There are already trials. Many operators are already beyond the step of proof of concept. Many of them have already launched some trials with real customers. So in some way, the prediction was valid. But then, of course, a trial is not a large-scale commercial deployment. For that, it's difficult to say, to have a very precise answer about that, because it depends on the type of use case. If the use case is relatively simple, involving a limited number of vendors, relatively simple network functions, then I'm pretty sure that we will see quite large-scale deployments by the end of this year or beginning of next year. Of course, complex deployments involving many different vendors, this will take more time, simply because although we are here in Etsy working very hard towards interoperability, the specifications that we will deliver in the coming weeks are not sufficient to ensure interoperability. We are, for the time being, delivering specifications of functional requirements related to different interfaces, but we are not yet at the stage of delivering protocols or API specifications. So, and this is the step that is required if you want true interoperability. So until we have that, of course, we cannot expect to have a huge multi-vendor commercial deployments. So it will take a bit more time.
Okay, interesting. Bruno Chetras, thank you very much indeed.
You are welcome. Yeah.